Do you have a loved one right now who is struggling with an addiction and you don't know how to talk with them or communicate with them? You don't know how to get through to them, and vice versa. Is there a barrier between the two of you and you don't know what to do or how to get over it, get through it, or get under it? If you answered yes to any one of those statements, then you're in the right place. This video is for you. Hi friend, my name is Bernie from Tiger Resilience, where we offer addiction solutions for family members and friends who have a loved one struggling with an addiction, in addition to helping the person with the addiction. If you're new here or coming back, I'd like to welcome you and thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule for coming here to review our content. I guarantee you that you will find value in this if you have a loved one struggling with an addiction issue. I'm going to share a metaphor with you that's very powerful that we use in our program, and it has helped families for many, many, many years. And that metaphor is the addiction bank account. So like any other bank account that you may be familiar with, you put money in, you make deposits, you take money out, you make withdrawals. Both of those work in not just the financial end, but they also work in the addiction end, and specifically dealing with the behaviors and emotions of the family members and the person with the addiction. So what I'd like to share with you is, what is that metaphor about? How can we break this down and have a better understanding, and then learn what are the tools that we can utilize to help us so that we can help a loved one who is struggling with an addiction. And even if they're not ready for treatment, at least we can stabilize the family, which is our primary goal here at Tiger Resilience, is to get the family cohesive and stabilized so that regardless of the individual's addiction, that they can continue to thrive and function on a daily basis. So again, the addiction bank account metaphor. Let's discuss first deposits and withdrawals. So I'm going to go over here to my slide, and I'm going to discuss a couple of points here for deposits. So we're making a deposit into the addiction bank account. What would a deposit look like? All right, I know that you have some probably good ideas of that for yourself and your family and your loved one, but I'm going to throw out a couple of practical ones. Honesty. The honesty between the communication of the two absolutely positively is a deposit. It's a very big deposit. Making and keeping promises, huge, absolutely big one, because that is a big investment if somebody can make that kind of a commitment that they're making and keeping a promise. Being sober, remaining sober if they're in their active recovery, or if they're seeking help and treatment and they're still active in their addiction, that they are actively seeking out treatment with help in order to get the help that they need so that they can get into a recovery program. That would be considered a deposit. Admitting slips if they did have a recovery program and they've slipped. A slip is considered and also called a relapse. But a relapse is a very broad term because that could mean a lot of things. What I'm talking about is somebody just maybe stumbled into their addiction. They had some recovery and they picked up a drink or a drug for a short period of time. It could have been a weekend warrior, it could have been one night, it could have been a couple of days in a week, but it's a slip. And they come out and they are admitting it 100%. Hey, I fell down, I slipped, I used my drug of choice this week or this weekend, and I need to get back on my track and get back on my program. That is a deposit. That is not a withdrawal. That is a deposit, because that's good faith and trust in not only you but themselves, that they are able to fulfill their recovery journey. Being active in their recovery is another deposit. Going to meetings, attending therapy sessions, working with a church or congregation, whatever that recovery looks like for that individual and for you as a family, as long as they're active in that continued activity is making deposits into that addiction bank account. And they're open emotionally. They're sharing openly emotions. They're not just saying, I'm fine, and walking away, but they're actually discussing the good days and the bad days, and more importantly, the bad days. When somebody has a bad day, to discuss that is one of the most powerful therapeutic things that they can do. You know this from your own feelings and emotions of dealing with that yourself, that if you've been able to honestly, openly disclose a bad day and just listen to have somebody listen to you with empathy, and there's no necessarily a rebuttal or response, it's just somebody to listen to. So that's a huge deposit as well, as somebody can open up emotionally. So let's take a look at what some withdrawals are. So you started out with honesty. Let's break that to the other end. Obviously, being dishonest, being deceitful, misdirecting, even partial truths are absolutely going to be withdrawals. So they can be partially truth about one thing, but the underlying toe of that is that they are, they're not truth. So they could be that, well, I slipped once this week. I'm doing good. I'm on my recovery. I drank, I had one drink after work on Thursday night, and it was a slip. I made a mistake. I'm back on track again. And they're being honest because they did actually have that one drink on Thursday night, but they didn't express or share with you that they actually were drinking every single night that week. They just took one night that they may have gotten caught, or they're disclosing that just so that they can keep in a safe house. So that's actually a withdrawal. That's not a deposit. There's no honesty in that as well. Obviously, using and being active in their addiction, that is a withdrawal. To continue their addiction is absolutely still hurting the family. It's hurting you as an individual. It is certainly hurting them. Hiding emotions, which is a big piece of addiction. So let's break down that really quick. Addiction is a behavior. It's a characteristic behavior that is something to help reward the biological reward system that we have up here with a substance that they've become dependent on and addicted to it. It's an obsession. But the person that you love and care for is still here. That individual, that what I refer to as that soul's code, the personal constitution of that person that you care for, they're still in there. But right now they're just being kind of smothered, or they're being hidden by the active behaviors of the addiction. So having and hiding emotions is a big piece to that. They don't want to share and express that whatsoever. Isolation is another big one. They're spending time alone. They're disconnected from the family. They're saying, hey, I'm fine, leave me alone, I need time for myself. Another piece for withdrawal is also blaming others for problems. I'm this way because of you, and because that happened to me, and I'm this way because this happened to me, and you said that, and you did that, and these pointing fingers. Many ways, the truth is that there is a lot of evidence that comes back to correlating addiction as a result of trauma in someone's life. And we'll discuss that in further videos going forward, and I do have a couple of videos that I will link below that discusses that also in some detail. But for the meantime, we're discussing the addiction bank account and building communication with you and your loved one right now. So with that being said, let's go to our first slide here. So what is a depletion in that withdrawal category? Trust. We just discussed that. So addiction can erode trust with the family. Addicted loved ones' actions such as lying, stealing, and breaking promises can deplete the emotional bank account. Trust, which is the essential fabric, it is the fundamental fabric of all healthy relationships, is absolutely withdrawn. It is gradually worn down. It's like shaving wood, where it's just taking pieces and pieces to the point where you have no more wood anymore. So that's what happens with trust depletion, and that is a big challenge for families, because it is something that your active addicted person is going to be doing. They're going to be depleting any trust because they're trying to keep their addiction alive. Their issue is that they can't stop, and in order to not stop, they need to hide a lot of things. Withdrawal of support. Families and addicted individuals often face challenges such as financial strain, emotional stress, and disruptions to daily life. These withdrawals come from the emotional bank account, and they can result in resentments, frustration, and emotional exhaustion for family members who have and feel neglected or burdened as a result of that person's addiction. So let's discuss that. Withdrawal of support. These are withdrawals coming out of the addiction bank account. Having somebody whose addiction is they are stealing things, they're taking money from you. There's a financial withdrawal that's happening within that family, even as literal as that is to a bank account, but that's exactly what is happening. They are losing not only just the trust, but they're doing things and behaviors that are creating a conflict within the family, or they're doing things that the family has to answer for. It could be a child, and mom and dad have to attend to an issue that they did externally, or a problem that they caused, and they're trying to help out that person. So withdrawal of support is a big issue. It is a withdrawal from that bank account because families absolutely feel exhausted and burdened from that as well. The communication breakdown is the fundamental factor of what we're talking about right now. That communication breakdown, seeking to understand somebody, to know what they're doing, and to go with what is happening into their lives requires that other person to participate. When your loved one is not participating, it's impossible for you to understand what's happening with them. I use the term often that we listen with an intention to understand somebody, not to respond to them. And your loved one right now is absolutely in defensive mode, and they are struggling with this, but they are absolutely listening only to respond. They're not really hearing you. And I can surmise realize that there's a good chance that you and your family members that are dealing with that addicted loved one are also not necessarily listening with the intention to understand, because you've heard it so many times. It's been so repetitive that it's become sickening. You become tired of it. It's like a badgering piece where they just keep beating you down on it, and you just get to the point where you're not going to listen anymore. You're just going to respond based on your autobiographical statements as a result of their behaviors, in a sense. So having that challenge right off the bat, that communication breakdown, is the fundamental breakdown of this whole purpose of this conversation. So what can we do, in a sense, to rebuilding trust? Well, let's go back to my statement earlier. We listen with the intention to understand, not to respond. If you begin this process with your loved one, listen to understand them from their perspective. Where are they at? What is this like? What is that behavior? Give them that open door to be honest about this. The only way that they're going to find that treatment and that help is they have to make that decision for themselves. You cannot do that for them. But with that being said, you can be the power of influence for them in that addiction. So the first thing is to build that trust, is listen to them with the intention of understanding what they're going through by putting yourself in their shoes. Even if you can't necessarily identify, you can certainly empathize with them. Also, let them have the chance to speak honestly without the criticism. Let them say, you know what, yeah, I am struggling with this. I did this substance and I started taking some of it and I've been taking more of it. Now I'm into a different substance because it's stronger. Alcohol, I'm drinking. I had a couple of drinks. Now I need 3 to 4 and 5 drinks in order to sustain my feeling normal, per se, in a sense. That's the addiction itself, the biological function of addiction, where they need that to feel normal. So having the ability to let them have some honesty in that will start to open that door for them, where they can feel like, well, hey, I can start talking to you without getting something with retribution. I can talk to you without criticism. Like, many of the statements that I've heard over so many years, like, just stop, you can stop, or you do that intentionally, or you do that because you don't love me, in a sense. The challenge with that statement is that it's not that they don't love you, they don't love themselves as they struggle with that addiction. And that's what this comes down to at the end of the day. So you listen with the intention to understand, you start to allow them the opportunity for being honest, and as well as giving them the chance to speak about their challenges and problems, being sincere about this, in a sense, so that they can begin to have that sense. When they do, that opens up the door very quickly for the opportunity for you to be that power of influence to get them into treatment and get the help that they need. In addition to it, if you've had somebody in early recovery and there's a lot of baggage from the past because they've done a lot of things and there's a lot of hurt there, it is also going to take time, and you're going to need to take a little bit of emphasis on your ability to give them some trust, to give them the chance to be able to not just earn back that trust and that by being honest, but give them that belief right off the bat. Be able to say, you know what, I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt. In the past, I was wrong, but right now you're in recovery, you're new in your journey. I can see some changes in you. I'm going to give you that benefit of the doubt. That is not enabling. That is not codependency. That is giving them the wherewithal and the investment, and that is a huge deposit, because if they feel that they are earning themselves but it's also being recognized by you, that is an absolute huge deposit in their recovery journey. So with that being said, let's break this apart. It's very simple to recap. So what we have is an addiction bank account. We understand that withdrawals are definite things such as having dishonesty, using the substance, not doing anything about their recovery or not being active in their recovery, having a slip or relapse and never saying a word about it and just continuing on under the radar. And again, remember, partial truths are not truths at all. They are absolutely withdrawals. So, and what can be deposits? Well, they're earning their honesty back by being honest and open with you. And you're giving them the chance too, which gives you that deposit into their bank account. Because by the way, this does go both ways. You need to help invest in that bank account too, because the withdrawals and deposits that you make to that individual are a lot of the challenges that you had faced goes back to them. Again, look at the criticisms, look at the why can't you just stop, the mistrust. Those are actual, even though they're withdrawals in your account, they're also hurting that other account as well. So understand that this is a two-way form It isn't just one person who has this account. This is both of you with the account, and both are making deposits and withdrawals simultaneously with each other. So it's important to understand honesty is the first and foremost. Have trust with the person. Listen with the intention to understand them, not to respond. Don't talk about your autobiography. Talk about where they are today and how you can help that situation today. What's the problem? Fix the problem. Get away from the biography and the history lessons, because those are the things that get people stuck all the time. And I see this time and time again with my families and the individuals that are dealing with addictions that I work with. They get stuck in the past tense, and that's not where you're going. You're not driving your car staring at a rear view mirror. You're driving your car staring at the windshield. So don't look in that rear view mirror. Focus on what you're dealing with at this very moment. Those will be the most monumental deposits that you can make into that relationship, which will start to bridge this gap that you have had because of that addiction and that behaviors of the addiction. If the individual chooses not to stop the addiction right away, again, your power of influence in doing these things will eventually get to them to be able to see potentially that they need the help themselves. Some are slow, some are fast. It's all up to the individual to make that choice. Again, you can't change somebody, but you can influence them. But in the meantime, these tools will help solidify the family and also get the family so that you folks can have an engaging and thriving relationship with each other without having the fear and the distress of the individual still dealing with that addiction. And another way of dealing with this too is by having very concrete barriers about what you will and will not accept. This is the conditional areas where it's not conditional love. This is just conditional barriers that you set up that state that, you can't bring this drug into the house, okay? That would be an immediate bankruptcy of our account if you bring that drug into our house, because that only not breaks the trust, but is putting our family at risk as well, especially if it's an illicit substance. That's going to put us at risk as well. Those are the kind of things that I'm referring to. When you put barriers up, it is creating a condition where you're not going to enable them to continue that behavior, at least in the comfort of a home that they may be residing in with you. And if they're not with you, then when they come visit, that will also give the same evidence. So with that being said, the addiction bank account, understanding the concept, understand that deposits and withdrawals are on both sides, and then understanding how you can continue to work on your deposits and even help explain this to the individual so that they can also understand and become honest with themselves, as well as start working towards the opportunity to get into recovery again if they're active in their addiction. Once again, I'd like to thank you for taking time. This is part one of a multitude of series that I have coming forward discussing communication and addiction, because one of the most fundamental challenges that families have faced, no matter what the problem is when it comes to addiction, it is that one word, communication, that is the paramount. It is the primary function of what is wrong with all relationships, is wrong with many of the issues we have in our world today. But we're talking about addiction specifically. So it is paramount to addiction, is that word communication, understanding it and knowing it. And the series that I have coming forward is going to express and discuss all the different things that we use in our program to assist you. The addiction bank account is one of those tools that we have, and we have a plethora of different tools that we utilize with our families and the addicted loved one to get them on the right path and get them into the right journey to get them into recovery. So once again, I'd like to thank you. My name is Bernie from Tiger Resilience, and we offer addiction solutions for family members and friends dealing with an addiction, as well as the person who has the addiction. If you found any value in this video, please consider subscribing to our channel, or at least liking this video to pay it forward, because this will help us to get this information out to other families that can really benefit from it. If you'd like to learn more about Tiger Resilience in our program, you'll see the information below in the description as well. And I'm also going to link another video, as I talked about earlier, about the correlation of trauma when it comes to addiction, that I think will be very powerful for you to understand, because almost every case of individuals struggling with addiction over the years of my years experience has had some level of trauma. So once again, thank you so much. I wish you nothing but the best today. Know that there's hope, know that there's help, and know that Tiger Resilience offers addiction solutions. And I wish you nothing but the best today, and I'll look forward to speaking with you very soon.